All right, I think a few more people starting to join here. As we continue to update you on what's happening here over the next several hours, we're going to have I'll make sure you guys can hear me as I usually do here before we see what's happening on both sides here. I think you guys can hear me, so I want to talk a little bit more about what's happening here. Make sure you guys can hear me. For some reason, I don't see it going through on Facebook, which is okay. I did click that button, but I want to make sure that it's on YouTube for you as well. So let's come out here and take a look at the arch here so you guys can see what's happening here. Want to make sure that we're in good shape as we look at what's happening here, as we've got a few storms that are coming in right now. Okay, I see that that's at least working, so that's good to know. Perfect. All right, coming back to me now. Welcome in as we try to make sure everything's working here. Weather impact meteorologist Gary Frank here as we look at the clouds and everything that's happening at the moment. I wanted to go through about what's expected here over the next couple of days, because this is not a big severe weather outbreak. This is a lower end severe weather outbreak, but I want to talk about some of the things that are leading up to it and why this is not a bigger one for us, and some of the threats that we're expecting as we approach our next weather impact alert day. Let's look again once at the arch here, and I'll pull this up for me from a perspective of being able to see everything here at the moment, and also flash on the fact that you guys can always check in to what's happening here. I know you guys can probably see me there, so perfect. So we're going to talk about what's happening here over the coming days, because right now, as far as temperatures are concerned, we're in the mid-60s here, and as we've talked about, we've got a northeast breeze right now, and there's really nothing going on here from a standpoint of significant severe weather. There's some to the south, but we've got a dry northeasterly flow, so there's really nothing that's going to impact us over the next several hours. So we're okay. Today's dry, but I want to focus on what's going on here a little bit more locally, because this area of severe weather off to our southwest really has to do with the fact that it's warmer, it's moist, it's out ahead of this little notch right here, and you'll see that we have one severe thunderstorm warning. Most of that impressive stuff stays to the south. Watch how over the last couple of hours it's really had a hard time and it's fizzled out. I'll zoom into Springfield and I want to slow this down. This is what's heading our way, but watch how it's kind of falling apart. That's running into a lot of really dry air that's local here, because like I said, we have a northeast breeze. So I do think that a lot of this rain right now is really going to fall apart. Like I said, we don't have much going on the rest of the weekend, but there'll be a few light showers for us tomorrow morning and maybe hanging around throughout part of the day. I think overall, tomorrow's quiet, and just to kind of show you this forecast before I get into it, we're going to see temps in the mid to upper 60s, right? I think overall, there's not much going on. But let's talk about the upper level energy and why this storm is a little different for others to the north and not versus here. And I'll pull this back out right now, and before I put this on a full screen. What we're looking at here is overall the jet stream pattern, or the 500 millibar pattern, where we're trying to find some of these bigger storms, dips in the jet stream, upper level wind and energy. As we forecast severe weather, we oftentimes, I know the one that I'll show you a bunch of times is this one. If I can find it here, I try to do these things as I'm thinking about them, right? Sometimes I show you, and this is going to say Friday because it's an old graphic, but let's update it here as we're just kind of talking about things here. Tuesday, severe ingredients, right? So when I'm looking for several severe ingredients, you're looking at wind shear, lift, instability, and moisture. Well, we're going to run into a couple of those, but really if I'm going to pick up right now, we're looking for lift here. This is probably one of the things that we're looking for, maybe upper level wind, and some of these storms provide lift. And so when we look at this, watch how I go out over the next couple of days here as we get into Monday. And this is where I want to put this on, I want to point this right here. You'll see all this red next to Minneapolis. That's a pretty great amount of lift and a lot of wind shear and upper level wind. And as we look at what's happening here, you can see where that is specifically. And I'll point that out right about here as I put a pause on this thing. this is where it is right here. And this is where the core of severe weather is, right? You'll notice how far we are away from this, right? We have nothing going on yet at this point. And even as I put this into motion and pause, look how the main energy goes to the north Monday into Tuesday, right? We have a little bit here, but it's not all that significant. You'll notice that. Now, when we had some of our bigger severe weather events over the last couple of weeks, right? When we've had some bigger ones, we see a lot more mid to upper level wind that forces at the surface. And I just don't see that at this point. However, there will be some opportunities for us to see bursts of wind and larger hail at this point, right? So that's the first thing I want to look at, and I want to show you here. As we get this back on the screen, let me find out what's going on. And I want to show you where the core of the severe weather threat is, right, that we're looking at. This is Monday, this is Minneapolis, this is central Iowa, this is parts of Wisconsin, and even into the UP, right? So this is a significant severe weather event from Monday. Look where we are in terms of the going from enhanced, moderate, this is where we are with that. And then it's a sharp cutoff into Pike County and then St. Louis, right? And when we say Monday, Monday typically denotes Monday at 7 a.m. to Tuesday at 7 a.m., right? So that's about what that denotes in terms of severe weather risk. And the reason for it, obviously, from a standpoint of timing, is if that goes into Tuesday morning, watch if those storms kind of, as this front pushes south, they run out of juice and energy because of the time that they come in. That's Monday, right? So I just want to point that out on Monday. And this is a day 3 risk, which anytime you get an enhanced or moderate day 3 risk, that means it is a bullseye for severe weather. They are in the midst of it, right? We're not involved in any of that. We're not going to see any outbreak like that. This is a marginal to slight risk type of thing that we're going to be dealing with here. Now, as we look at Monday, here's what we're outlined for Tuesday. This is day 4 from the Storm Prediction Center, and it's a larger area, which really includes all of us, right? It's this yellow area, and I really think that you're going to see a broad, slight risk that's probably going to be denoted for our area, and you'll see that and have an update tomorrow. But the main story for me is the fact that we're not going to quite get the same instability, the same moisture that is feeding in. And let me put this back on here for a second. I often, like I said, sometimes I like to show you what we look at some of the forecasting behind the scenes. And one of them I show you is this comparison from the Storm Prediction Center, the Colorado State AI machine learning, and of course the local SLU one as well. And I want to pull this up here so you can see where this is. Look at, the specifics here as you have the bullseye in the core of severe weather in northern Missouri, central Minnesota. You'll notice how we're really kind of on the very edge of that, right? We're on the very edge of a very low-end risk. And then you'll notice that, let me see if I can move this for you on the fly or zoom in. I want to be able to zoom in just a little bit here. You can see that we're kind of still in the yellow, and, look at those areas specifically here. Let me reset this so I can zoom in further and show you exactly what's happening when I got to do these a little differently sometimes. So when we're talking about what's expected for us here, as I zoom in just a little bit more, I really think that this is a marginal risk at best here. Let me pan this all the way down. Like I said, I always try to do these things on the fly here so you guys can see them just a little bit better, and zoom this out. So you can see where we're really in the yellow. We're on a marginal risk. This is not anything like what I have if I put this to the, pull this further up, right? So I reset that back. We're in pretty good shape here. I do think that we're going to see a severe weather risk, but in terms of some significant, this is not, I know everyone compares it and asks to 314 outbreak. That's not where we are with this, right? This is what it looks like here for me. And I want to put this into motion here so you guys can see what's going to be happening Sunday into Monday. Watch the core of where this low is, and I'll pull this out for a second so you can see where this low that is immediately, watch all this warm, moist air that's feeding into that low with all that energy that I just showed you, and then you're going to start to see storms that develop along that, right? So now as I pull this up just a little bit more, watch how the afternoon and evening along that line. That's where we're going to see a significant severe weather outbreak right there. But then behind it, the wind is already changing. And that's what we're going to be looking at to our south. Monday, watch the core of that. And sometimes this front moves south weekends, but we're going to be watching specifically on where that moves after we're done, right? And so that's what I want to point out, because watch what this particular computer model wants to spit out for what we're expecting. Let me pull this to the south. You're still dry Monday. It's very warm. It's very, very warm and even a little bit more humid. But watch by midnight here as we get closer to things. That's when it wants to spit out a few showers and thunderstorms, but this is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And notice the wind front, and that's the reason I'll pull this on a full screen. You can see where the wind direction is already starting out of. And really, as we look into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday specifically, it is a matter of, as I pull this back on here so I can draw on this for you, pause that. It's a matter of where does this front sit, right? And you can see that along this area, that's where the front settles in. Where does this front sit? We have light, moderate, and a few scattered showers and thunderstorms. Not everybody's getting rain here at this point, but it's where is the core of maybe the instability that we find, right? And sometimes we pull up this one here for you too. You can look at this thunderstorm energy. This is Cape. This is, that's another one of these things you may hear us mention, maybe more so on a stream. I'm probably not going to say that here in my 2.5, 3-minute deals that we do, but look at the core, and I'll pull this out just a little bit as I zoom out, and you can look at where the core of this energy lies and remains, right? Watch where, let me move that, look where the core of all that energy goes, right? And this is by Monday. It feeds right into that storm. But out ahead of it for us, the thing that we're going to deal with here is I changed the time all the way to 72 hours. The thing that we're going to deal with specifically is the fact that, yes, it's going to get very warm on Monday, but watch how that starts to fade on Tuesday. Where is the core of that going to set up? You'll still see there's some higher numbers, right? And I think it's where's that instability going to be out on Tuesday? Do we have clouds and rain that's left over? Well, that may limit things. And I don't think there's a lot of other larger scale factors that sometimes when we have clouds and rain, I still look at severe weather. I think this is going to be very limited in some sense. But because of the fact that it's warm and you're still going to see temps at 70 degrees to start out the day on Tuesday, we'll watch out for where that front settles in. You'll see how that quickly clears out and moves to the south. So that's going to be something to really pay attention to specifically, right? So for us, our next weather impact alert day for Tuesday, really all day, specifically because of where that front is, but I think it carries into the evening, 7, 8, 9 o'clock. But 50 to 60 mile an hour wind with wind gusts and large hail. Those are my 2 main threats that I'm expecting, so just be prepared for that ahead. And like I said, you know, your main severe weather impacts for Tuesday are the fact that we have 60 plus mile an hour wind gusts. I can't rule out a tornado, but at this point, that would be very, very minimal. And it would be a very weak tornado. So don't worry about some big outbreak of tornadoes. I know that's on everybody's mind. That's not what we're looking at. 1-inch hail, that's it. And I won't talk about any flooding here at this point, but I do want to say that I do think that we're probably going to get some pretty decent rain over the next few days once again. I'm going to find that here for you specifically where I look at all that rain. I do think we have a pretty decent shot at getting some rain over the next few days. I'm going to try to pull this one up if I can find where the rain is. I've got these graphics here, but yeah, let me pull this up. I think over the next few days you're going to look at some rain that really starts to pick up, and some lighter rain tomorrow that maybe adds into these totals. But watch all the way throughout the next several days. There's going to be 2-3 inches of rain, maybe some higher totals where they get more thunderstorms. So all the way through where this front settles in, that's where the higher totals are going to sit. So those are the main things that we're paying attention to. I'm going to pull this back out and go look to see if anyone has texted any questions here as we look at this. And if you haven't, and if I have a few of them, of course, I'll take a look at them. And if you see this and watch it a little bit later, I can always check in and respond a little bit later on. Let me look. I didn't bring my laptop over there because I don't think I'm going to get a ton of questions about this specific threat, simply because it is on the lower end. But I know some people on our Weather Watchers group were asking about some things. So just popping over here so that you guys can look at that. Let me look if we got any messages here. Let's see. All right, perfect. That is... Thanks for letting me know that the audio feedback is audible but loud. I will work on fixing that for you. 836. So cool. I will work on fixing that for you. Thanks for the update there. And that's the main thing that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of days. Like I said, I think this is a lower end severe threat here. Yeah, I think that should be good. terms of audio, but I'll mess with that for you. So appreciate the feedback there. This is a lower end severe threat, but like I said, 60-mile-an-hour wind and larger hail. Those are my two main threats. I think tornadoes are very minimal. It's not out of the question we'll see one, but this is we may see multiple severe thunderstorm warnings, but not everybody is going to get this type of severe weather. So we'll have an update again tonight at 10, and of course update you throughout the rest of the weekend as we start to see more of that high resolution model data and gives us a better idea of what the radar may look like as we get Monday into Tuesday. Till then, have a safe night, and we'll talk to you soon.